at your heart, and your mama will always be right there for you. You want to say something to her, look down at your heart, and whatever you say to her, say it to her right there. The same way I have to do. I have to look right here, and I have to talk to her and ask her, just tell me what happened. And then she wrote him a note in his lunchbox. And on the back of the note, he responded and said, I love you more, Mom. How did she just walk away? How? When they told you that he had her in the headlock, how did he even walk away? Why did they was so easy to walk away? They tell me, look at the video, they bumping fences. I don't know about any of that because I really can't even focus.
For days, the jail block had been quiet. The cold concrete walls, the metal doors, and the constant echo of footsteps created a place where time seemed to move slower than anywhere else. Inside one of those cells sat Holly Johnson, the woman at the center of the shocking case connected to Romeca Meeks. When Holly was first taken into custody, she barely spoke. Officers said she kept her head down, answering questions with only a few words. Prosecutors believed she was holding something back, something important. But jail has a way of changing people. After several days behind bars, something shifted. According to sources close to the investigation, Holly began asking questions about the case. She wanted to know what investigators had discovered, what witnesses had said, and what evidence might exist. Then came the moment that caught everyone's attention. During a meeting with her legal team, Holly reportedly hinted that she might be ready to speak, not just about the shooting, but about someone else involved in the story. One name came up repeatedly: Carlos. For months, people following the Romeca Meeks case have been asking the same question. What exactly was Carlos's role in the events that led to that tragic day? Witnesses have shared different versions of the story. Some claim Carlos was closer to the situation than he has publicly admitted. Others say there were arguments, tension, and moments that investigators are still trying to piece together. Now, with Holly reportedly considering revealing more details, prosecutors may soon hear information they have been waiting for. If she truly decides to speak, it could change everything about how this case is understood. The question is no longer whether Holly knows more. The real question is what she is about to reveal and how it could affect Carlos. For more updates and deep breakdowns of this case, make sure you like and subscribe for more true crime stories and investigations. As the days passed inside the jail, investigators continued reviewing every detail connected to the tragic case of Romeca Meeks. Detectives replayed witness statements, examined timelines, and looked closely at the relationships between everyone involved. But one name kept appearing again and again: Carlos. According to several witnesses, the moments leading up to the shooting were tense. Some described arguments that had been building for days. Others claimed there had been emotional confrontations that day, which may have escalated quickly. At first, investigators focused mainly on Holly Johnson since she was the person taken into custody after the incident. But as detectives dug deeper, they started noticing gaps in the timeline. There were moments that no one had clearly explained. Where exactly was Carlos standing during the confrontation? What did he see before the shooting happened? And most importantly, what role did he play in the moments leading up to the tragedy? Witnesses offered different versions of what they remembered. Some said Carlos tried to calm things down. Others claimed he appeared to be arguing as well. The stories weren't identical, but they raised enough questions for investigators to look closer. Meanwhile, inside the jail, Holly's attitude was slowly changing. According to reports, she had begun speaking more openly with her attorneys. At one point, sources say she asked a very specific question: what happens if I tell them everything? For prosecutors, that question was significant. It suggested that Holly might be considering cooperating, possibly revealing details that investigators had not yet confirmed. If that happens, the focus of the case could expand beyond what the public currently believes. Because sometimes the truth of a crime isn't revealed immediately. Sometimes it only begins to surface after someone decides they can no longer stay silent. And if Holly truly decides to talk, the story surrounding Romeca Meeks could take a completely unexpected turn. For more updates and deep dives into true crime cases like this, make sure you like and subscribe to True Crime Files for more true crime stories and investigations. To understand why investigators are paying so much attention to Holly's possible statement, you have to go back to the day everything changed for Romeca Meeks. That day started like many others. People were going about their normal routines, unaware that within minutes a situation would unfold that would later dominate headlines and social media discussions. Witnesses later described the scene as tense long before the shooting happened. Several people say there was already an argument building. Voices were raised, emotions were high, and people nearby could tell something serious was happening. Some witnesses claimed that Holly Johnson and Romeca were confronting each other, while others said there were multiple people involved in the heated exchange. Among those present was Carlos. His exact role during those moments has been one of the biggest unanswered questions in the investigation. Some witnesses said he appeared to be trying to talk during the confrontation. Others claimed he was standing very close as the argument escalated. Then everything happened quickly. According to reports, the situation suddenly turned chaotic. People nearby heard the sound that no one ever wants to hear, and within seconds, panic spread through the area. Bystanders called for help while others rushed toward the scene. Emergency responders were contacted immediately, and authorities soon arrived to secure the area and begin their investigation. As investigators began questioning people who had been nearby, they realized something important. Many witnesses had overlapping stories, but there were also key differences. Some people focused on Holly. Others talked about Carlos being present at critical moments, and a few hinted that there might be more to the story than what was initially known. That's exactly why Holly's recent willingness to talk has caught the attention of prosecutors. Because if she decides to reveal what really happened during those final moments, it could answer the question everyone has been asking. What exactly happened that day? For more updates and deep breakdowns of this case, make sure you like and subscribe for more true crime stories and investigations. Inside a jail cell, time feels different. The outside world continues moving forward. But for the person locked behind those steel doors, every hour can feel like a day. For Holly Johnson, the first few days after her arrest were filled with silence. Correctional officers reported that she kept mostly to herself. She rarely spoke with other inmates and spent long periods sitting quietly in her cell. Anyone who saw her during those early days described the same thing. A woman deep in thought, clearly aware of the serious situation she was now facing. But jail has a way of forcing reality to settle in. As the days passed, Holly began learning more about what prosecutors were building against her in the case connected to Romeca Meeks. Reports from investigators, witness statements, and physical evidence were all being reviewed, and according to sources familiar with the situation, the list was growing. That's when Holly reportedly began asking more questions during meetings with her defense team. Oh, she wanted to know exactly what investigators had uncovered and how strong the case might be. One of her attorneys reportedly explained that prosecutors were still piecing together the full story. They believed there were details that had not yet been revealed, details that someone close to the situation might know. That conversation appears to have sparked something. Sources claim that during one meeting, Holly leaned forward and quietly said something that immediately caught her attorney's attention. "I know things about Carlos that they don't know yet." Those words may have changed the direction of the entire case. If Holly truly has information that investigators have not heard before, prosecutors will want to know exactly what she means and how it connects to the final moments before Romeca Meeks lost her life. The biggest question now is whether Holly will actually follow through. Because once she starts talking, there may be no way to take those words back. News travels quickly inside the justice system. When word spread that Holly Johnson might be ready to talk, prosecutors immediately began paying attention. For months, investigators had been trying to piece together exactly what happened during the moments leading up to the death of Romeca Meeks. Witness statements had helped build a timeline, but there were still gaps, pieces of the story that didn't fully line up. Now, suddenly, One of the central figures in the case was hinting that she had more to reveal. According to legal sources, Harley's defense team began having serious conversations with prosecutors. These kinds of discussions are common in high-profile cases, especially when someone claims to have information that could change how investigators understand what happened. But prosecutors don't just take someone's word for it. If Holly truly wants to tell everything, as some sources have suggested, she would have to explain it clearly and back up her claims with details that investigators can verify. And that's where things get complicated. Because if Holly's version of events points the finger toward Carlos, it could potentially shift part of the investigation. Prosecutors would want to examine whether his actions played a bigger role in the events surrounding Romeca's death than previously believed. At the same time, investigators must be careful. People facing serious charges sometimes try to shift blame in order to help themselves. Prosecutors know that any new information must be tested carefully against witness accounts, timelines, and physical evidence already collected. Still, the possibility that Holly may speak openly has created a new sense of urgency. Behind closed doors, investigators are reviewing every detail again, every statement, every witness interview, and every piece of evidence connected to Romeca Meeks. Because if Holly truly decides to talk, it could reveal the missing pieces of a story that many people have been trying to understand for months. And if those pieces point towards someone else, the case could take an unexpected turn. As the investigation surrounding Rome Meeks continues, pressure inside the courtroom and behind the scenes is beginning to grow. Prosecutors know that cases like this often hinge on one critical moment, the moment when someone decides to speak openly about what really happened. And right now, many people are watching Holly Johnson closely. According to sources familiar with the situation, Holly's time in jail has been difficult. Life behind bars forces people to face the seriousness of the charges against them every single day. Court dates, legal meetings, and the constant reminder of the case can weigh heavily on anyone. That pressure can sometimes lead to major decisions. Legal experts say that if Holly truly wants to cooperate with prosecutors, the process would be very serious. She would likely need to sit down with investigators and give a detailed account of everything she claims to know about the events surrounding the death of Romeca. That includes any information about Carlos. For investigators, the most important part would be consistency. They would compare Holly's story with witness statements, phone records, and other evidence already collected in the case. If her version of events matches what they have discovered, it could strengthen parts of the investigation. But if her story doesn't match the evidence, prosecutors may treat the information with caution. At the same time, rumors about Holly, possibly speaking, have already begun spreading online. True crime followers and people connected to the case are all asking the same question. Will she actually tell everything? Because if Holly decides to reveal new details, those statements could shape how the case moves forward in court. They could raise new questions, challenge earlier claims, and possibly even change the direction of the investigation. For now, the public is left waiting to see whether Holly will stay silent or finally explain what she believes really happened during the final moments involving Romeca Meeks. As the days continue to pass, the tension surrounding the case of Romeca Meeks keeps growing. Investigators, attorneys, and even people following the case online are all focused on one key question. Will Holly Johnson finally tell everything she claims to know? Behind the scenes, prosecutors are continuing to review every detail of the case. Witness statements, timelines, and physical evidence are being examined again and again. When a case reaches this stage, investigators want to make sure that every piece of information is solid before it reaches a courtroom. But Holly's reported statement, that she knows things about Carlos that investigators have not heard yet, is still hanging over the case. If she truly has new information, it could help fill in some of the unanswered questions that remain about the moments leading up to Romeca's death. Legal experts say that if Harley decides to cooperate with prosecutors, she would likely need to give a full statement under very serious conditions. Investigators would expect specific details, not just general accusations. They would want times, conversations, actions, and anything else that could be verified through evidence. And that process could take time. Meanwhile, the defense team is also preparing for what might come next. Any new statements would be carefully reviewed, and both sides of the courtroom would examine how those claims affect the overall case. For the family and people who cared about Romeca Meeks, the waiting has been incredibly difficult. They want clarity, they want answers, and most of all, they want the truth about what happened. Right now, that truth may still be locked inside conversations happening behind closed doors, conversations that could soon shape the future of the entire case. The next development could change everything. The investigation into the death of Romeca Meeks now stands at a critical moment. After months of questions, court hearings, and public speculation, the case appears to be approaching a turning point that could shape everything that happens next. At the center of it all remains Holly Johnson. Her time in jail has reportedly changed the way she views the situation. Sources close to the case say that the reality of the charges and the seriousness of the investigation have forced her to think carefully about what comes next. If Holly truly decides to reveal everything she knows, it could provide investigators with information they have been searching for since the beginning. But speaking out is not a simple decision. Any statement Harley makes would immediately become part of the legal process. Prosecutors would analyze every detail, comparing her claims with the evidence already collected. Witness statements, phone records, and timelines would all be used to confirm whether her story aligns with what investigators already know. And then there is Carlos. If Holly's claims involve him in a deeper way than previously understood, investigators would need to examine those claims carefully. That doesn't mean the case would suddenly change overnight, but it could open new lines of questioning and investigation. For now, prosecutors are continuing to prepare their case based on the evidence they already have. Court dates are approaching, and each new hearing brings the public one step closer to seeing how the justice system will handle the case of Romeca Meeks. For Romeca's loved ones, the hope remains simple, that the truth will come out in court. Because only when every detail is examined and every voice is heard, can the full story finally be understood. And as the legal process continues, many people are watching closely to see what Holly decides to do next. For more updates and deep true crime breakdowns, don't forget to like and subscribe to True Crime Files for more true crime stories and investigations.